welcome to this edition of Dufferin Life. I'm your host, Teena Avery. Thank you so much for joining us. So I always want to know what's going on in Orangeville. And, you know, you think because I'm on the show and I talk to a lot of people, I do know a lot of things that are going on, but I like to get the inside scoop. And joining me today, we have Mayor Lisa Post. Thank you so much for joining me today.
I'm so glad that you have me here today. This is always so much fun. We can always catch up on some good stuff going on around the community.
Well, this is it, right? I mean, I don't have the in on everything. Everyone thinks I do, but I really don't. So this is why I have important people like you on the show to tell me what's going on so I can look like I know what I'm talking about.
Happy to be here. We've got lots going on, so there's a couple of key things I'd love to chat with you about today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, let's start with the one that I think I've seen on social media a lot lately, as we're approaching the delivery of some new recycle bins.
We sure are. So let's talk about a little bit about what that looks like and what it's going to look like and why it's happening. So I think that that's an important piece. Waste management is run by the County of Dufferin, and very recently the provincial government made some big changes to legislation to ensure that producers of recycling materials are actually being responsible for disposing of those. So they call it producer responsibility, which means that now the waste management for recycling, specifically for residential recycling, has shifted because of the provincial legislation. So it's now a provincial responsibility. It's no longer a County of Dufferin or Town of Orangeville responsibility. And because of that, they've brought in a third-party organization called Circular Materials. And Circular Materials will be the one overseeing all of that new recycling. So there's a new process that's going to happen. The good news is it does mean that more items are now able to be recycled. So we have, it equalizes it across the province so that the same materials will be able to be collected across the province so that there's not differences between contracts within municipalities, which is great. So it does, for us, it allows us to have more items that are actually going to be recyclable that weren't before. So things like Tim Hortons cups are now going to be recyclable.
Oh, that's good.
Which is really good to know. But it also means that there's a shift in how they're being picked up. So GFL, who has historically always picked up our recycling and our garbage here in Dufferin County, are still going to be the contractor doing that work. So you'll still see GFL trucks coming, but they're using different trucks. They're going to be using the ones that pick up the big blue bins. So we are changing to the large blue bins. So a lot of municipalities have already made that shift. We're doing it not because Dufferin County necessarily instigated it, but because this was a change under Circular Materials. This is the way that they've laid out the contract with GFL. So the new recycle bins are going to be coming out sometime in March. You'll get one delivered to your home. If you requested a smaller size during the window that was open, which was only a couple of weeks in January, then the smaller one will be delivered. Otherwise, you'll get the standard size, which is 360 liter bin. So it's quite significantly large, but it will be able to hold all of your materials. And because you do have more items that can now be recycled, it's good to have a bigger option.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you've got families with a lot of people in the family and there's a lot of things going on, you need one of those bins that are bigger, you know. When you're like me, you don't need as many things.
So I think the really important thing for the community to know is that when those bins get delivered, don't start using it right away. Make sure you read the instructions that come with it, because they are going to be starting picking those up as of the beginning of April. So you'll get your date on your bin of when you're going to start using them. It sounds like it's going to be the very first pickup in April, but I don't have that date to be confirmed right now. So make sure you read all of the documentation that comes with your bin when it's delivered to your home.
Good point. Yeah, because I think people are like, well, I've got it, I might as well use it, right?
And they do require the specialty machine to pick up, because the arms pick it up. It's not being done the way that it is right now. Right now, we actually have people driving the trucks who get out and manually pick up all the waste and the recycling. It's going to be that the bin is picked up by the truck and then automatically dumped into the back of the truck.
So will there be changes to the garbage side of things, or will that remain the same?
No, the garbage side and the compost side is not changing at all, at least not at this time. Those are still operated under the County of Dufferin, and we've still got a few years left on that contract. So we won't be talking about the garbage for another few years anyways.
All right, so there you go. We're tackling recycling now. Give us a couple of years and then we'll talk about everything else.
And stay tuned. If people are curious as to what's going on, anytime I'm getting new updates from Circular Materials, I'm posting them to all of my social media pages, just trying to make sure that the community understands what's happening and why.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that I saw you post that's important is you can't use your blue bags, the blue recycle bags.
That's right. There was a bit of miscommunication in the beginning, because in Dufferin County we have historically always been able to use the blue recycling bags. That's changing, and it's changing because of the facility that Circular Materials has, where the sorting actually happens. So the sorting is done by machine, it's not done manually, and they don't have a bag ripper or a way to open that. So if there is a bag, it requires a manual
Right.
a manual piece to happen, which they just don't have the capacity to do. So you can still use the bags, just don't put them in your, like if you want to use them in your house and dump all of your material into the bin, you can do it that way. But yeah, just don't put all your items in the blue bags and then in the bin.
Yeah, don't do that.
Don't do that, please.
That's a big.
That's right. Exactly. Exactly.
For sure. Well, that's important information for us to know, because all of us recycle, and you need to know what's happening and what's doing. So the bin's going to come. You're going to read the instructions, and then you're going to find out exactly when to start putting them out.
And if I do find a date that they're coming, I'll post that to my social media. If I know a week that they're coming, because they are doing all of Dufferin County at the same time. So.
Do you remember how small the smaller bins were?
240. So it was 360 and 240.
Okay.
So they're both big. They're both significantly bigger than what we use now.
Yeah. Okay. Good to know. Good to know. Well, that's good information to know, and we've got some exciting information about how you can boost up some people in the community. But I'm going to let Mayor Post tell us all about that.
Sure. So council actually just recently passed a new award ceremony that we're going to be doing, a new way to recognize the community. We know that our community operates as well as it does because of the great people that make it happen, and that's community members, volunteers, from sports organizations, service clubs, all across the community who are doing really, really great work and just making everything in our community happen. So we really wanted a formal way to recognize all of those great people in our community. So we've got our very first annual Community Recognition Awards happening in April. They're going to be coming in end of April 22nd, I believe is the date. But what we have open now is the nomination period.
Okay.
So we're asking the community to, when you hear about community contribution, or you think about volunteers that you would want to recognize, or citizen achievement that you want to recognize, who pops into your head right away? Take a few minutes and please fill out the nomination form and make sure that those people in your lives are recognized.
Yeah, I think it's really important. I mean, we always talk about what an amazing community we live in. And, there's a lot of people that do a lot of things, and they don't do it for the recognition.
That's right.
But I think it's really important sometimes to just be like, hey, I see what you're doing, and it's really, really helpful, even if it's on a smaller scale. It doesn't have to be something in the community that's massive, right?
No, that's right. So we want to recognize volunteers who have been doing it quietly in the background for a long time, right? We ask that they be volunteers. I think that the nomination says for 10 years. For students, we recognize that would be a little younger or a little less, so we ask for 3 years at that point.
Okay.
But again, it's the volunteers who are making all of our great not-for-profits run, right? We want to recognize those people. For the service club members who are attending meetings all the time and doing all the great work across our community that service clubs do, things like Christmas in the Park and all of the park upgrades that happen. Those happen because of service clubs working so hard in the background. We also want to recognize really great achievements in our community. So when we have artists or musicians or culinary masters or sports people going off and doing great things, if we've got a local sports person who is participating in the Olympics or has been given the opportunity to compete for Team Canada in something, we want to recognize all those amazing sports achievements as well. So citizen achievement is one of the categories that we've got as well, because we do want to be able to recognize those folks. We want to recognize the coaches who are doing all the great work behind the scenes in our sports community, right?
Yeah, absolutely, because I think sometimes, we focus on, the athlete and what they're doing and, what's happening. But oftentimes, or most times, well, all the time, there's usually a coach behind the scene that's kind of, giving them their tips and giving, and really pushing them to achieve to a level that maybe they didn't even think they could achieve.
That's right. And then we've got a special award as well for community contribution. So that person who doesn't maybe fit into the volunteer category, or who doesn't necessarily, not a coach or isn't an athlete out doing great things, but they're doing so much in the community behind the scenes, we've got a community recognition award for that as well. There's also a Mayor's Special Achievement Award that I'll be picking somebody from the community who goes above and beyond all the time to make Orangeville the amazingly special place that it is. So nominations are open now, and they are open until February 27th at 4:30. So if you know that person, please submit them and give them an opportunity to be recognized at the very first annual Community Recognition Awards.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you don't know somebody, ask your friends. Like, I mean, it's a matter of just letting everybody know that these awards are happening. This is the first annual, so you want to make sure that we're trying to spread the word. That's what we're doing right now. It's trying to create that awareness. But you can help the community by doing that as well. You know, you may not know somebody for specific categories, but I'm sure you know somebody that probably knows somebody that knows somebody, right?
Totally. And we see it on Facebook all the time. People will put up a post saying, you know, thanks to the great crossing guard who, you know, is going above and beyond every day. You know, those are the people. They're the people who are doing all the little things. And now this gives them a really formal, special way to be recognized in the community.
Which I think is great. I think it's absolutely amazing. So you've got until February 27th. You can go to the website. It's going to appear on the screen a couple times. It's going to appear at the end.
Oh, perfect.
You know, with all of that information. Worst case scenario, you're going to go to orangeville.ca and you know, just go into the search bar, just type
Community Recognition Awards. Yep, you'll find it for sure.
For sure. So what, tell us a little bit, like, where did this develop from, the community awards?
So we get asks all the time about how we can recognize achievement in our community. And I get a lot of calls about, Mayor Post, could you come and present a certificate to so-and-so for doing something, right? And we have been doing them just kind of as one-offs, but we wanted to have that really special awards night where it's not just happening kind of off the cuff at a council meeting. We really wanted a process where, you know, it's going to be juried by a panel. We've got a volunteer panel who we've taken that are not staff or council.
Okay.
We're going to look at all of the nominations so that we've got a little bit of objectivity to it as well, and really make sure that these have a higher honor. So we looked at other examples across the municipal sector and who are doing a really great job with community recognition awards, and we, you know, copied some of those great ideas and made it Orangeville specific. So really looked at cross-sector and what people were doing. But the big thing behind it is that we know that it is the people of Orangeville that make Orangeville the special place that it is, and we really wanted a formalized way to be able to recognize that achievement in a way, you know, with a special awards night.
Well, that's absolutely, so there is an actual awards night. You said it's April
22nd,
Okay.
I believe, is the date. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's going to be wonderful.
That's going to be, I mean, that's going to be one, I was going to say it's going to be one heck of a party, but it's just going to be like a night like where, like there are so many events that happen in this town that when you get together, you just kind of walk in and you go, this is amazing.
Yes.
It's going to be another one of those.
I agree. I think it's long overdue. I think it's a really great way to just have a really special night that means something that I hope will be really memorable and where people feel like they're truly recognized in a significant way.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely amazing. So we've got about a minute left before we have to go.
Okay.
Anything else that you want to share with us today, or anything?
Again, I think that the community should just prepare for a really great summer coming. We've got, you know, I've been speaking to a lot of our not-for-profit agencies like the Orangeville Blues and Jazz Festival and the Celebrate Your Awesome Committee and our downtown BIA, and there's just some really exciting summer stuff planned. We also have a new event happening this year with the Nashville Takeover that Orangeville was selected to be a part of, so that's going to be a new event coming to town. But I think people should prep. I know February blues are tough, so we just want to really get ready to celebrate, you know, the festivals of Orangeville, and I'm looking forward to seeing everybody out there when the weather's a bit nicer.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. Mayor Post, thank you so much for joining us today for this bit of an update.
Thank you. I'm happy to come anytime, Teena. I appreciate it.
It was truly my pleasure. Don't you go anywhere. We'll be right back.
We're still awesome.
This program is brought to you by Rogers Xfinity, connecting you to more of what you love. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Hi, I'm Michaela. I'm so happy to have these prosthetic legs. I wear them every day so I can do all the things I love to do. I like to hike, skate, and do gymnastics. Because of your donations, Lamps is able to give me these devices. When you donate, you help kids like me. Thank you.
Public transit, garbage pickup, parks and recreation programs, snow removal on your street. How can you stay informed about these and other important local services? Tune to City Council coverage on Rogers TV. See your community leaders at work on Rogers TV City Council coverage.
Welcome back to Dufferin Life. Thanks for sticking with us. And if you're tuning in, as always, you're tuning in at a great time. So we're talking about the town of Orangeville in this show. We just had Mayor Post on. Now I am thrilled to welcome my next guest, Councillor Joe Andrews. Thank you so much for joining me.
It is so nice to be here, and it's a hard act to follow after Mayor Post, that's for sure, but really proud to be here representing council.
Well, I'm very happy that you're here. I mean, you've been on the show, I think, once or twice,
yes,
but
I
think we need to do, I was saying that I like to keep my know. Like, I like to be in the know. I don't always know what's going on, what's happening, and people assume I do because I speak to a lot of people, so I do know a lot of things that are happening in the community. But there are certain things that maybe I'm not aware of, and we want to make the rest of the community aware of as
Absolutely.
well. So we want to start off by talking about the Affordable Housing Task Force that was in play not that long ago, and maybe I should start by asking about what the task force is.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to provide somewhat of a high-level overview of what the Affordable Housing Task Force was. The reason the task force was set forth were for a variety of reasons. I think the first is that the province, of course, the province of Ontario, came forth with the Let's Build More Homes Faster, and the opportunity for municipalities across the province to consider this with some forms of incentives, if you would call that. The idea behind the Orangeville Affordable Housing Task Force was to garner as much information as we could to have an Orangeville-specific report that would be presented to council. So it was a year-long report, a year-long group that was primarily made up of, they were volunteers, but they were individuals that were selected who stepped forward from the building industry, the real estate side, developer side. And during that one-year period, from September of 2024 to October of 2025, we met monthly, had a variety of developers, individuals who were innovators, people who knew the importance of what affordable housing was, but also what we define as the affordable housing crisis. And I want to be perfectly clear to your viewers that we were not assembled to solve the social housing crisis that exists. The idea was to provide a report to council at the end of this task force that would, I think, guide the municipality on how best to at least look at ways at accelerating the housing stock, finding ways to define that threshold of what is affordable. And every community across this province, across this country, there are different definitions, and there's expectations that, a municipal government is going to come up with a solution. At the conclusion of this task force, which in fact I presented the report to council in October, early November of 2025, were 9 recommendations that the task force came up with. And out of those 9 recommendations, there is, the municipality is considering some of these, some of which come with some form of expense, some of which are what I call the low-hanging fruit, which may be easy to initiate. So as an example, because development charges are not applied to what are defined as ARUs, affordable or additional dwelling units, our building department has looked at a variety of what we call designs that are already completed, so blueprints that could be rubber stamped, and this way the consumer would be able to consider adding an additional dwelling unit to their home. So this could be a basement apartment, this could be an additional dwelling unit that is added to the side of the house, or it could be a standalone. It doesn't solve all the problems that exist here in Orangeville when it comes to, or even Dufferin County, when we identify affordable housing as a somewhat of an inequality that exists in our society. But the objective was to come up with some solutions that hopefully we could accelerate and improve the housing stock.
Yeah, and I think, because initially when we said we were going to talk about affordable housing and that sort of thing, you almost think like almost like bigger scale, right? With
Understood.
and as you said, you weren't there. You're not there to solve everything when it comes to but there's the need for housing has grown, and I think, and as we see the economy change and costs go up, and maybe you see more people needing a place to live that they can afford to live there, as
opposed to couch surfing or looking at alternative forms of housing where people are maybe living with a family member, or you have the boomerang kids that are struggling to find appropriate housing. There are a variety of examples that exist across the province, across this country. One piece that came up where we had discussion about tiny homes. Tiny homes doesn't solve the housing problem. All it is a entry point.
Right.
But it doesn't necessarily, it's not accepted in every community. From a zoning perspective, it poses some challenges. So the objective behind the report was to what can we effectively do from an Orangeville or Dufferin County perspective, but in my role on council, more specifically the Orangeville view of how do we increase our housing stock.
Right.
Affordable housing or attainable housing stock.
Attainable, yeah. Those are both very important words when you're talking about housing, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, when we were moving forward with the report, and you had mentioned one which is kind of the rubber stamping of already homes that have the capability of having multiple people living there.
Yes.
Different dwellings, different entrances, all that sort of thing. Was there anything else from the report that is somewhat achievable for the
one that's under
town?
consideration that I've been pushing? I think appropriately, and we will see if the municipality has the appetite to do so, but an example is providing some forms of incentives. So the incentives would be to, as an example, the town of Collingwood has an incentive program for ARUs, additional residential units, or ADUs, additional dwelling units, where the applicant had an opportunity to receive up to $10,000 per application to add an additional dwelling unit to their residence.
Okay.
So that would cover predominantly the permit costs and some of the maybe design costs as well. That has been a hugely successful example in the province of Ontario, where they've had 27 applications plus that have been approved, but that also takes a commitment by the municipality to allocate those appropriate funds. We may be able to look at that a little differently here in Orangeville, but I think that is one other recommendation that was spoken about, and I think that the takeaway is that there is consideration from staff to possibly look at this in 2027 when the budget discussions are taking place. I think lastly is the opportunity to also incorporate some other best practices that may exist, as you mentioned, about Habitat for Humanity. They have some very unique propositions that are out there, and I think it's a collage of different levels of government and or organizations that are going to help solve this issue of attainable or affordable housing.
Yeah, and I think you just mentioned what I was just going to bring up to you now is, a lot of people can assume that maybe you have full control, and but you're talking about multiple levels of government.
Very
and I
much
think people really need to realize that it's not a matter of you just turning around and saying, this is what we're going to do.
The last point I wanted to share is that I do get through this particular file, and even though that the report was filed to council back in November, I still get a number of calls. I get a number of questions that come from members of our community, and they all ask, what is my definition of affordable housing? And I said, affordable housing is different to everyone, and whatever that baseline or threshold is, it is different in each community. And I think the the important piece is that we have to work together to come up with a solution.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not just one person makes a decision and away we go.
So true.
Which is with most of our lives. When you're talking about high level things that you want changed or you feel need to be changed, or you have a suggestion of how it can be changed. It's not a matter of doing this, and
yes.
There's a lot of work behind it. So
I agree.
A task force like you that had put together these points, and some that can be able to hopefully be achieved or at least considered, or if not, from there sponging, moving forward onto something else that may come from that, right? So
Absolutely.
for the betterment of affordable housing and for the community. Absolutely.
Okay.
All right.
So the next thing I guess we wanted to talk a little bit about is I have a number of files that have been responsible for this particular term of council, and another one is EDI, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. And again, there's another example where we brought together volunteers from our community from all different walks of life, representing the diversity that exists in our community. And the success of this particular committee was such that we were able to come up with a report also back to council and met our terms of reference before the conclusion of this term of council. And as a result, we have come up with commitments to not only showcase the diversity of our community and do so in a respectful way. An example, this is Black History Month, at least as of this taping. The town is committed to voices that need to be heard respectively. So outside of Town Hall, we have a new Indigenous education plaque and also the opportunity to work with our public library, where they're providing opportunities for education. So the commitment of the EDI committee, and more importantly, the strategy behind EDI from a municipal perspective, has been, I think, a huge success. EDI is one of those things that in many communities, and especially with what has transpired south of the border, EDI policies and strategies and commitments have been washed away. Orangeville is committing, as other municipalities are, other communities across this country are. And Orangeville wanted to make sure that we didn't lose that commitment. And I'm very proud of the activities that have taken place with that committee. And I think that the committee has also reflected the changes that are existing within our community as well.
And I absolutely love that, because I mean, we're talking about, you're saying, like, not doing, what south of the border may be doing, and people are just kind of walking past and not really taking a good look at equality and diversity, and and how important that is. And we're such an amazing community.
We are.
And these task forces and everything, they work so hard, and they're made up of the people that are affected by all of these things, and people that can make change for all these things. And moving forward, and that's it. We're moving forward.
We are.
Yeah, I think that's the perfect way to say it, is it's moving forward.
And we have momentum with this particular council, and I've been absolutely proud to be a part of it. Advocacy is also another component of our role, and advocacy is representing our municipality at a higher level of government. So we're the lowest of the four, and so subsequently we on council have the opportunity of attending a variety of different conferences, and this is where you network with the different ministerial representation. You have those opportunities to make sure that your touch points are there to identify the priorities that we have here in Orangeville from an infrastructure perspective and so on and so forth.
That's absolutely amazing. I think we could have talked a whole show with
I agree. I agree.
Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, our pleasure, and such a delight to be here.
It was definitely our pleasure to have you here, and thank you for joining us. Until next time, bye-bye for now. So we're still on screen.
Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com.
The regulars, the guys who keep this place in business. Last week, they had something to celebrate. Jason had just finished university, so they toasted his profs, his TAs, his old roommates. Well, they toasted just about everyone. But I worry about and take care of my guys. So even when I know they're not driving, sometimes that means bringing them a little surprise. And then they had a drink